Thanks. Thanks for having me, and thanks for supporting Liquitex. And very, very excited to be here and go through the Liquitex bio-based products. So I know everyone will be anxious to get going. So I'll just introduce a little bit about myself. So Kareen Hague, I am on Instagram under Art of Abstraction, primarily because I started doing mainly abstracts when I was first on Instagram. And I've just sort of kept it. My website is the same, Art of Abstraction. And I'll flip over my camera since we're going to go through the demo stuff in a few minutes. My history, I have painted on and off my entire life, really actively since about 2015. My mother was an artist, oils, acrylics, watercolors, grew up watching her paint. She did the Toronto Outdoor Show in the 80s, tons of different shows, and completely different time then. I just recently stopped working a full-time job. So at that point in time, I had a full-time job as a design director for Parker's Knitwear, a sweater manufacturer. So designed sweaters and worked a lot with color. I love color. And so this is perfect. At the time, I called my my art my full-time side hustle because, you know, I really put as much time into my art as I did into my day job. It just was evenings and weekends. So anyways, and I'm now, you know, working towards art almost full time. I have Liquitex and a few other things on the side, as we all do. So in order to make a go of this. Anyways, I'm going to switch my camera over, and if you have questions at the end about me and that sort of thing, I can give you more details. I'll give you a quick little overview of the shows that I have going on in the next little while in case you want to meet me in person. So just doing a quick little flip over here, just for easy reference for any of you, as Annie had mentioned, there is a sale on at Above Ground until the 21st on the bio products specifically, but all weekend 20% off site-wide or for all products, which is a great way to pick up any of these things we're going to be talking about today and stock up on what you need. If you have questions regarding Liquitex, questions that I can't answer, but also a good resource just to look at. It's a tremendous website full of information. So liquitex.com and their Instagram, Liquitex Official, and my information at Art of Abstraction and artofabstraction.ca for my website and my current works. Just to give you an idea as to what's going on right now, I'm part of the Pi Art Squared show for 3.14 launched yesterday. So that's online, and that's through Kate Taylor and at artalchemy.ca. I have works in the Twist Gallery on Queen Street up until April 27th. I'm going to be set up in the McKay Art Center in Unionville next week, and we'll have some open studio hours. You can go to my Instagram and double check that, but basically Tuesday to Friday from 10 until 12. And Saturday from 11 until 4. The rest of the time we won't be open because it will be painting time. I have a solo show in Bracebridge on Mac on Main, and at the end of April, Heintzman House art show and sale. So lots going on, but enough about that because you want to see the paints. So I'll give you a quick overview as to what we're going to do today. You may recognize these little paintings from the promo for the Zoom. I'm going to concentrate primarily on the water scene. If we have time, we will get to the more landscapey scene, but really the idea between both of these, they are a landscape. You have a horizon line. This is blues, so it makes the mind look and think that it's water. This being greens makes you think it's more landscape, land, that sort of thing. So I am not a specific, I'm just going to move these out of the way for a moment, that one anyways. I am not a specific detail artist. So my I call it sort of abstracted realism, and I tend to like to use a lot of layers and different colors until an image emerges. So which is what you're kind of seeing here. And then it's up to you as the viewer to decide how you see that image. So today we're specifically focusing on the Liquitex, which are the new bio-based. This is the heavy body acrylic, and I'm going to, they call it bio-based heavy acrylic. I will give you a comparison so that you can see how it compares if you're currently using the heavy body or if you're using the soft body. So the colors are pretty much streamlined. The line has been designed so that you can move from a regular product into bio-based. So if you, are very environmentally conscious and want to be doing everything in your life to be most sustainable, then this is a great product for you. So we have 3 colors, and these are really the 3 core mixing colors that Liquitex uses. We have, gotta get the camera here, quinacridone crimson. We have the yellow medium azo and the phthalo blue green shade. These are part of a kit, and this is a fantastic kit. It has the 4 colors in addition to the titanium white. So I'm going to be doing the majority of what we're seeing today mixing with the titanium white. I will also be discussing the differences with transparent mixing white. And just to give you a quick little overview on label information, which you may or may not be familiar with. On the side of the Liquitex jars, and this is on all of their products. If they're bigger jars, it's sometimes a little bit easier to see. But at the top, it shows the pigment color. Sorry, the camera, I'm having a hard time here. Pigment color at the very top. So each color has a different pigment. If it's a hue, it might have a series of different numbers shown. This box below, when it's open, means it's transparent, and I'll be talking about that a little bit in terms of the color mixing. The light fastness, you'll find all of these are a light fastness of 1. So that testing is done through the ASTM and American Society for Testing, so they adhere to the principles of that. The light fastness, they actually use a special light fastness machine called the Q-Sun machine. It's a xenon chamber, and it actually tests like so many hours that the color doesn't change. So it's pretty interesting. I'm just going to go right to the bottom. You can see a QR code. So you'll notice on every container you have, there's a QR code, and that will take you to the Liquitex site, which has amazing information on it, which I mentioned earlier. So this is the transparent mixing white, is 54% bio-based. Every single one of these products is around 50%. So the quinacridone crimson is 43%. The phthalo blue is 41%. The titanium white is 56%. This varies because of what they have to use. So basically traditional acrylic, I'm just going to flip back for a moment and then we'll get quickly into, I know you just want to see the stuff that we're working on. But while I'm just talking for a minute here, we'll just do a quick flip back. So basically the bio products are approximately 50% bio-based. And basically what they have done is taken the binder and changed that to a renewable type of product. So a bio-based, instead of having it made from like a petrochemical type product, fossil fuels, which is traditionally what is used to make plastics. So they've changed those to a renewable resource like corn, soya, algae, sugarcane, that sort of thing. so you can feel comfortable that part of what you're doing is a renewable resource. So the pigments, where they can, without changing the color and the consistency and the quality of the product, if they can, they will change it to a renewable organic product as well. So that's just a little bit about the bio-based. If there's any questions, holler. I'm going to flip back and we'll start pulling out some of the products. I'm going to start with the very quickly, and I'm going to start with the bio-based mediums. The image, the painting that we're going to do here is just the bio-based paints. So we will start working on that when I start the color mixing. Liquitex has two bio-based mediums. So one is the matte and gloss medium, which is very similar to the traditional matte medium. The matte medium can be used for lots of different things. Not sure if you use it regularly in your practice or not. I use it in every painting, and I'll just give you a little bit of an example. And I texturize my canvas before I start painting. So this is just a mock-up that I've done, and I've actually used a gloss medium here, and I've used a gel medium, which I'll show you in a moment. And I've covered here; it's covered with a gesso. So I texturize everything, which just creates an added dimension to the product. So matte medium, if you have never used it before, it can be used for a ton of different things. Image transfers, very interesting. It can be used as a glaze, and I'll show you that as well. So you can just put a little bit of color in it and use it to go over areas as a glaze. You can use the matte on a painting if you want to reduce overall surface gloss. It is also used as a paint extender. So you mix it with paint, and it takes the paint a little bit farther than if you're just using straight paint. And it's also a fabulous glue for collage. And so in a way, the texture that I apply is almost like a collage. I'm going to show you as well the bio-based gel. So we have the medium, which is very fluid, and we have the gel. And I think I can start probably pulling out some of these. Let me get rid of these for a moment. We'll make some space here. I'm going to come back to these mixing charts shortly. So the bio-based, and I have a little paper here. This is just canvas paper. So on here, I'll show you this is the bio-based gloss gel that I've mixed some pigment with. You can see the gel on its own here. Just it dries clear and shiny, of course. And on this side, you can see the matte medium has a little bit of just a satiny matte finish, and then the gloss medium you can see here, and it's very flat like a paint. I'm going to show you all so that you can see, and then I'll show you how I use some of them on the surfaces of my paintings. So the gloss gel, you can see, has a beautiful consistency. I'm using just a palette pad here. And actually, I want to show you, I'm just going to, here, let me put this out. And then I'm just going to show you something fun. Because this has sort of a waxy surface on it, and you end up with, I'm just going to show you, when you're doing a lot of mixing and you're using one of these pads, you end up with all kinds of, different colors and fun little things. And most artists, not all artists, but a lot of us like to keep things. Do you like to keep things and stock up on things in case you might need it? You can put a little note in the chat. Christina, feel free to jump in if there's any comments there. So I just want to show you a fun thing that can be done with the mediums. So you can see I've actually cut out some corners here. So when I have leftover products, I will sometimes cover a piece of paper. I will cover it with a matte medium. Then I'll put my palette paper on top of that and let it dry. When I pull the palette paper off, it leaves the paint and gives you some very interesting patterns that you're going to work with. So this is just a piece that I had cut off of one of those palette pages. So I put the matte medium on the paper, and I can do one of these for you so you can see it. And you can see it all just pulls right off. This is another one that I had pulled from the paper. Really kind of a fun, I'm all about colorful backgrounds. And then you can cover those up and make whatever you like. So here's another one. So because of the waxiness of the palette paper, most of it comes off. This is a bit of a heavier one, so it didn't pull all of that. But really kind of a fun way, and again, to use every bit of your paper. So we're talking about bio, we're talking about recycling, and we want to make sure that we're using every bit of the products that we have. You know, it's just good for all of us if we can, you know, not throw too much away. So, okay, so I have some of the bio-based gloss gel here. And just to keep in consistency with this little piece of paper here, I'm going to put in some of the phthalo blue. And I have just, if you're curious, off to the side here, just some paper towel that I keep slightly wet. I always have a couple of spray bottles with me, which I'll talk about. Anytime I use the palette knife, I can just clean it on the paper towel so that I'm not dipping in and getting a whole bunch of different colors in here. I'm just going to pull out a little bit with the palette knife, put the lid back on. I have a habit of leaving lids off, and we don't want to do that. So I'm just going to show you the consistency here and how nice this is for mixing. So there's a little tiny bit of our phthalo blue, and you can see the consistency there. I'm just going to mix some of that in with the gel. And of course, the more you put in, the darker, the more pigment you put in, the more phthalo blue, the darker it's going to be. But you can see, you saw how much of the phthalo blue that I put down there. I didn't put that much down. And you can see how this works as an extender. I have a lot of paint mixed here. So I'm just going to take that. I'm just going to put it on here. I'm not sure how well you can see this, but it's really nice because, you know, it stays thick. You know, you can create lots of texture with this. You can scrape into it. And I'm just going to show you some different tools, how you can create some different effects.
Kareen, we have a question here in the chat for
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
So S here is asking if you could compare the traditional heavy body Liquitex acrylic to bio-based in terms of color, thickness, cost, and any other
Sure.
things that come to your mind.
Sure. Cost, if you don't mind, just look at your end, a comparative color. I think my understanding is they have made an effort to try and make the pricing as comparable as possible so that you have a choice in terms of what you're doing. So I'll get out a couple of different products so that you can see the consistency between them. But they've basically been formulated and tested to ensure that they act very much the same as your regular products. But there is a difference in terms of the thickness. So I will show you that next. So when you do the gel, because it's thick, you can do lots of different things. So I'm big about using things around the house. So this is a credit card, which I've done sort of an interesting jagged edge on. I can drag that through and create quite an interesting effect. So if you have different things around your house, you can use those to create different textures and different effects. So that was a credit card. This is, and I'm showing you these things because of the whole recycled sort of nature of things. This is from a berry basket, although I think berry baskets are not plastic anymore, so you probably can't use one of those. But again, it gives some interesting effects that you can do. So, okay, so that is the gel, the bio-based gel with color added to it. So I'm going to go now just to talk about that question that came up in terms of the different products and the consistencies. And then I'm going to go back to how we can use the mediums to prepare the surface of a canvas. So I have pulled out, so as a comparison point, let's see here, I'll use the bio-based heavy acrylic again. This is the phthalo blue green shade. So I'm going to pull that out. And I'm going to put some down here, and I'll pull out some canvas paper, and you can see the difference. So if you can see with the palette knife right now, it's fairly thick, but I'm going to just show the comparison against one of the heavy body acrylics. So as a comparison, so I have indigo, and this is a beautiful color. So I would say it's fairly close, but a little tiny bit softer than what you're using in terms of the heavy body, just marginally. The difference is if you're using the soft body, and I tend to use in my regular practice a lot of the soft body. I love it. But I really like this bio stuff as well. The bio stuff, this new bio-based. It has a real flow to it, and I don't know, there's something about it with the brush. It's really nice. Okay, so then here's the soft body acrylic. So you can see even just the way it comes out. It is much, much more fluid. But again, it's almost between the two, but a little bit closer to what we have in the heavy body. Does that help answer the question? I said that I would grab some paper and show you. Okay, so here's a canvas pad.
We have
Yep.
another question in the chat from Linda Montgomery. She'd like to know the difference in viscosity to the bio-based heavy body. And I think that kind of leans into what you're talking about.
Yeah. So basically the heavy body, just to give you an idea, the heavy body would be the thickest. The traditional soft body would be the thinnest, and the bio-based is basically in the middle. So hopefully that helps. So let me just show you what this looks like with the brush. So here's the bio-based. and I'm using a wet brush. For those that are interested, I'm using the this is a Winsor Newton brush. Winsor Newton is also part of CallArt, which is the umbrella company that owns Liquitex and Winsor Newton. So this is, it was listed on one of the materials to use for the demo. You don't have to use it, but it is a great brush. It's beautiful in terms of easy to clean and picks up the color beautifully. Okay, so there's, that was the bio-based phthalo blue. I'm going to do just a little quick clean of the brush here. And I don't know what people use in your studio, but I tend to have a number of plastic containers, and I can clean right where I'm working by just filling with a tiny little bit of water and cleaning the brush, and then just wiping it on either a wet, either old rag or paper towel. And that's very good at getting most of the color out. Okay, so this is the indigo, this beautiful shade, which was part of the heavy body, the regular heavy body acrylics. So you can see very similar. Little, just, you know, a little bit thicker. And in terms of the transparency, I'm just going to call this out because you can see it on the canvas here. Hopefully you can see it. Put it a little bit closer. The indigo from the regular heavy body, you can see this has, it's a solid square on here, which means that it's opaque. And just to go back to the phthalo blue, it has a square that's just the outline, which means that it's transparent. And you can see that very clearly in terms of the coverage that we're getting on the canvas sheet here. And then I will just show the soft body, which is the cobalt blue I pulled just for a reference point. Just need to get the paint off my brush. Okay, so the cobalt blue, and just as a comparison point, the cobalt blue is also considered opaque. And I can digress a little bit and show you the difference. So this, you can see much smoother in terms of how it goes out. And that's just, you know, based on being the soft body acrylic. So there you go. I hope that helps that question. I'm going to just jump ahead a smidge for anyone that may be interested, just in terms of transparencies, which I talked about here. So this is a chart that I did up using the bio-based, and we have, you know, the three basic colors that we're using today, the Quin Crimson, which is transparent, the phthalo blue, also transparent, the yellow medium azo, which is considered semi-transparent, but because of the lightness of the color, it becomes quite transparent. I have a couple of other colors, which I'll talk about later. But what I have done here, and this is great for you in terms of experimenting, you can really look at the colors and how they layer over each other and how you might use them in your practice. So you can see, for example, the transparent colors here of the quinacridone crimson, how the blue really shows through. When you get the opaque colors here, the totally opaque, the titanium, sorry, this is the unbleached titanium, the titanium white, and the green, that's the chromium oxide green. They're very opaque and covers everything. So it's great to experiment and really see how all of those colors work together. Okay, so we've looked at the differences between the bio-based, as I said, is just beautiful to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip back to the mediums just briefly, and we're going to look at using some of the mediums for just creating a textural background on your canvas. And then we're going to get into color mixing and start working on our little water scene. So, okay, so texture, I had shown you something earlier. So I tend to use a lot of papers and mediums in my practice. So I'll use this board. This has just one paper. So I use a lot of tissue paper, and then I'll combine it with different regular mediums. So modeling paste, the gel, the matte gel, lots of different things. So, and it just depends on how irregular the texture is and that sort of thing. But to give you an idea, the matte medium can be used, as I had mentioned, if you're doing collage. So basically, you're going to, put your matte medium on your, oops, this is my gloss gel, sorry. I'm gonna use that in a minute. I'll show you. So the matte medium, I will just take it out, use it. I'll use it, and I'll put out some of the regular matte medium so you can see it, so you can see the consistency. So I'll cover the canvas with the matte medium. I'm going to get the regular. So again, this is the regular matte medium. So I'm going to put this down so you can see it's basically the same. So the idea would be, if you feel better about using a bio-based product, you can definitely switch over from one to the other. So you can see the consistency is pretty much the same. Close that up. So I will apply different papers, and often we'll use either catalyst wedge or credit card just to stick those down. And in this case, it has a pattern on it. For me, that's good because I like the way a pattern will show through in the painting. It gives sort of an illusion. You can also use the catalyst wedge. So this just gives an unexpected surface, and I find that it creates just a really interesting effect when you're painting. So I need a little bit more matte medium. So I like to make sure it's all really covered well. And then once it's all dry, then I'll gesso the whole thing, which is what I had shown you earlier. So very easy in terms of applying things to a canvas. So you can use, as I said, for collage, anything, it can be used anyway as a glue, and know that it's, artist quality, and it will, last. So another thing that I like to do, and I'm going to pull this one out again, and this again is its texture, this kind of tissue paper type stuff. But this is also craft paper. This is from just an old brown paper bag. And I find if you're wanting to apply heavier, thicker things to paper, the gel actually works a little bit better because it has a little bit more grab to it. So again, we'll lay out some of the gel.
We have a question here in the chat, Kareen.
Yep,
So someone's asking if you use acid-free tissue paper, and they were asking where they can get it. So I'll send a link. We do sell it above ground, and I'll send it in the
perfect.
chat.
That's great. Yeah, I'm not particularly picky on that. In some cases, I do use acid-free, but it ends up having so many layers on top of it. And you will find when you're using it, there's a whole bunch of different thicknesses of tissue paper if you want to use it. So I'll find I just accumulate at home with stuff that I get from packaging, and I'll sort it into thicker and thinner, and because you can change up what type of texture you make depending on the thickness of the paper. So the um, so the papers with the gel medium, you can see you can get some interesting textures because of the layers of the paper, and then you get some interesting texture just applying the gel medium on top of it. Hard to see, I know. But let me just show you this side where I have gessoed it. So you can see the paper underneath. You can see lines happening from the change in the paper, but you can also see interesting textures happening with the gel medium when it dries. So this unfortunately was not something that we could do if you wanted to do a finished painting today, because you have to really let it dry before you can start painting. So it's a process that takes time. I generally will texturize a number of canvases, then I'll gesso them, and then I have them waiting, ready to go. And you can decide how you want to texture. Sometimes, I'll change it up if it's landscape or this or that. Sometimes I don't. It varies. Okay, so I'm going to just show you on this since I have these paints out. I'm just going to show you a couple of things. And I want to show you how to use a matte medium as a glaze. So I'm going to show you that on something else. So I'm going to put a little bit of matte medium on here, and I'm going to mix some of these paints with that, and I'll show you how we can use it as a glaze. And so that's the matte medium, and close that up. My luck. I've done a demo before where I had the paint open and dropped the whole thing, so that's not pretty. Okay, so matte medium as a glaze. Okay, so that we're mixing together. I'm going to use that on a glaze. I'm just going to pull out something that I have that I can add that to so you can see it. And then I want to show you when you take just your, so I'm going to go back to the phthalo blue, which I have here, and I'm going to take that, and if you can see, okay, I'm just going to paint this across here so you can see the effect that happens. The paint, depending on how hard you press, it will go either just on the surface or it'll go in. So this is all about just playing and experimenting. So I have played with this concept for years and have worked into what I currently do in terms of landscapes, waterscapes. It started really with birch trees, and yeah, so I use this whole concept, but work the colors so they work into the different kind of genre of painting. So what becomes interesting here is when you start layering up the colors, because the underlayers show through because of the texture. So now I want to show you the glazing aspect. because when this is dry, you can actually go to this with a glaze. But what I'm going to do is I'll pull out this one, which I had started previously. So lots of texture happening on here. There's more texture in here that has been using like a gel type, as well as the modeling paste. And you can see I've scraped it with a lot of things. So, you just have to be creative with how you're using these things. So I'm just going to show you, let me just clean this brush a smidge. Here, I'll use my other brush. Here I actually used the soft body acrylic simply because it was the closest. This is the cobalt blue and the soft body, but you can do the same thing. Now this is using the biomatte medium as a glaze. We have glazing products as well, so you can use an actual glazing medium. But if you don't have it, you can use this. So you can see I just have a little bit of the paint in here, and I'm going to go in here. Can you see? I'm painting over everything, and I'm using the brush, but you can see it's filling in the background, so I don't have the white showing through so much. And it's also, I'll put a little bit more of the pigment in here. We'll just go into this area right here where I have a lot of the teal. So I can go over that in a very, kind of dense way, but it's just giving a light glaze, a light film of the blue. So it just gives a shadow effect. So it is great if you're doing rocks or things like that. You can add some details in if you want to, put some highlights in water, or, even using this as a background in here. It almost now gives the feeling that I have branches and brush in front of some water. So we're looking through that brush and we can see water in the background. So again, I don't use particular images. I will Google images to see if I want to get a particular feel for something, and I'll come back to it, but I'll pull them out quickly. We're going to do the water painting. So I'll talk a little bit about this in terms of some of the details that we want to work in, and the darks and lights. This would be sort of a random landscape painting. So what we have coming together here would more be a reflection of what we're seeing here. So in the end, I want to have a random bunch of sort of shrubs and leaves and flowers to give you this effect. And again, it's just when you look at it, your brain is going to tell you. When you look up close, it's just a bunch of random stuff. That's what's kind of fun about the whole thing. Okay, so we've talked about the matte medium as a glaze. You can do any color. It works really well, or you can get the Liquitex glazing fluid. I'm sorry, I don't have it here to show you. I have it in my kit, but I'm not going to go and get it. But it's a great opportunity this weekend to stock up on some of these things. I know I definitely am going to restock a few of the things. The matte medium that I use a ton of, I'm going to restock. And the gesso, which I use a ton of, I'm going to restock as well. So, okay. So I think I've covered the mediums. Are we okay, Christina, for questions? I'm just going to flip the camera around here for a moment. Are we okay for questions? If there isn't anything else, I'm going to just flip over to color mixing. And then we'll start working on our little painting. So you can all join if you like, or simply just enjoy. So I'm guessing we're probably okay.
Yep, we're all good on this end.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to flip back then, and okay, so I'm going to get rid of these for the time being. We'll come back to them if we need to, want to. Okay, I gotta clean off my palette knife. Okay, so I had mentioned about reusing the paints that are on your palette. So let me just show you quickly what I will do in something like this. What have I got here? So this is just paper, just a textural paper. So this is from another palette that I had used. I'm going to show you something else. Sometimes I'll use these disposable palettes, but sometimes I'll just use a sheet protector. So plastic sheet protector, you can use this as a palette. And then anything left over, again, you can put on the paper and pull it off. So that's how a lot of these were done. I'm going to do the same thing with this, what's left on the palette here, because then at least I have an interesting piece of paper that I can cut apart. I can turn into cards. I can collage with it, whatever. So I'm just going to mix this up a smidge, and then I'm going to put, so we have some interesting, and it's a little bit smoother. So we've got some interesting things happening here on the palette. And the fun thing is we have some interesting colors happening here. I'm going to clean off my palette knife there. I am going to use the bio-based matte mediums. And I am going to basically cover this. You can use, I'm just going to use the palette knife since I have it handy. I'm going to cover this whole thing, which is going to give some additional kind of gluing, I'm going to call it power, to the acrylic paint that's on there. So some of that had dried already, and yeah, I have to watch. You have to be careful when you put your palette knife in that it's clean, that it doesn't have stuff on it. I had some wet paint on there. So, okay. So I'm covering that with the matte medium. Okay. So again, we have some interesting colors happening there. And I wish I could show this to you, but it'll be probably tomorrow before it's dry. So maybe what I'll do is I'll post something on my Instagram, which might be kind of fun to see. Let's just move this out of the way. So taking the paper, I'm just going to lay this right on top of the paper that's here. And I'm just going to leave it. So that we'll put aside, it'll dry, and then I can pull that off, similar to what I showed you when we first started. Let me just see if I can find that paper again. Actually, here's another one that I did. Let's see if it worked. I didn't just so you know, I didn't actually put the matte medium on this paper, so it may not totally come off. So this is one of the disposable palette papers. Yeah, so we're not getting a total because I didn't put the matte medium, but you can see where the palette was wet, it has stuck to the paper. But where it was dry, it didn't stick. And that's where, and so this was all wet here. So that's where, when you put the matte medium on, it will pull even the dry. Oh, what happened here? Sorry, can you still see me? Christina?
Mhm.
Okay, you can still see me, right? Because something happened to my computer and I've lost my screen.
We can see your desk.
Yeah, okay, great. Perfect. I had a call come through and something happened to the, so if for some reason, just holler if it looks wonky, because I have lost my view on my computer. Something related to my phone. Okay, so holler if it seems not right. Okay. Sorry about that. So now we're going to get into the color mixing. Um, okay. So we're going back to the mediums, and I'm just going to bring these mixing charts out here. And I'll just go through how we did this. And this really, a lot of this is really for you experimenting. And sorry, I'm really just trying to, there we go. Got it. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so the bio-based, I'm going to pull out all the colors plus the titanium white. What I have here is a chart that I had done up, which really is great to do with all of your colors. So I find that when you have certain colors that you use in your practice, if you use similar colors, even if they're mixed differently with each other, your paintings will all blend together. So if you have if you're trying to put together a grouping of, 5, 6, 7, 8 paintings. If you do those all in the same color range, it will be a cohesive group of paintings. So what I want to show you here is what you can do with basically 4 colors. And I've added 2 more to the 4 colors that you get in the kit. So just a reminder here, this is the kit. It has the 4 colors in it, the quinacridone crimson. So I'm going to pull all of these out. We're going to start doing some mixing, and then I'll show you how we can vary that a little bit. So we have, okay, the quinacridone crimson, and then put my lid back on. Good practices here. So one of the things I don't think that I mentioned, a couple of things. Liquitex is owned by Call Art, also owned by another company. Call Art is out of the UK. Okay, here's the phthalo blue, the green shade. I'm just going to get a whole bunch out here because we'll need a whole bunch. The Liquitex paint is all made in France. It's made in Le Mans, France, which is wonderful. We think of a lot of the best art in the world, and the artist from France, so that's kind of cool. So Liquitex is what they call a certified B, or Call Art is a certified B Corp. So that means basically everything they do has been rated basically best practices. So they have to have a specific rating to be able to put that B Corp documentation on their products. So you know that you're working with a company that treats their employees well. They watch the environment in terms of what they're doing and all of that. Okay, so titanium white. Okay, we're going to put a bunch of that. Maybe I'll just put that down here. We might need more of that, but let's start with that. So I want to just talk to you a little bit about the color and the mixing. And I think we'll probably start working on our image kind of as we're mixing, because then this is all about layering colors. And so if we kind of do it as we're mixing, then you can follow along and do your own if you choose. Otherwise, you'll just see it evolve at my end. So, okay. So I just want to really talk about the variety of colors that you can get. So if you look at, first of all, the regular titanium white, which is opaque, and the transparent mixing white, I may have talked about this a little bit already, but here's the phthalo blue mixed with titanium white, just varying shades, the quin crimson with titanium white, the yellow medium azo again with titanium white. The transparent mixing white, transparent. So you can see here the colors are just a little bit clearer, but also transparent. So the phthalo blue was a transparent or is a transparent color. So mixing it with the transparent mixing white, it remains transparent. With the titanium white, it becomes opaque when you mix it. Good for something like light yellow. So if you're trying to get some coverage on something, if you mix it with the titanium white, it makes it really opaque and you can get some coverage. So then these are all shades that we're getting by mixing all the colors together. This is pretty straightforward. I think you've probably all done lots of color mixing, but I'll just dive into a couple of other things. So this is the phthalo blue with the quin crimson. So you're getting a beautiful deep purple. And then we have the quin crimson with the yellow medium azo, becomes a beautiful red. Phthalo blue with the yellow azo, again, a beautiful clear green. So then you're mixing titanium white with these things, you're getting lots of beautiful shades within here. You can see the difference in color that you're getting here. So those are pretty straightforward mixes. This is just an example, just how you can see the variations that you can get depending on how much more crimson you put in, or in terms of, you know, all of the oranges. So again, how much of the crimson and the azo, and then mixing a little bit of the phthalo blue in can make it a little bit on the brown side. So I highly recommend just to get the colors and just experiment. Again, just little mixes of colors. And I'm just going to throw one more thing in. We're not going to use this today, but I do use this regularly in my practice. So here are the same colors again. So to give you an idea, so if we compare the top row, so the phthalo blue, and here, instead of the titanium white, I've used the unbleached titanium. And again, beautiful shade. I'm not going to get it out. If somebody wants to see me mix with it, just put it in the comments, and Christina, let me know. I'll work that into the mixing. But I love the way it gives the shades a little bit of an antique-y feel to it. So you can see the difference in terms of the blues. We're getting a little bit more into the green tone, just working in that the unbleached titanium. You can see the crimson, how we're getting much softer in terms of the pinks. Here, I'll just cover up that the blue so that you can see. So, so more almost cosmetic-y shades here. And then the same with the yellow. So it just gives, again, another ability to just tone slightly. And here, you know, we're almost getting into, you know, variations on skin tones, not quite there, but you have so much that can be done. So then the last thing that is very interesting, so let me get rid of these. If you take, and I'll mix this for you so you can see it. So here we have the three primaries, our core shades. Here, this is a mixture of all three colors. I didn't, I'm going to say it's fairly equal parts, but I was just sort of mixing a bit of everything. So I think it was fairly equal. You'll find when you do the mixing, the phthalo blue is a very intense color, so you don't need much of it. But then when you mix that with the titanium white, you get again another beautiful shade of blue. Here I took this, mixed it with the quinacridone crimson. So now we have a very deep but more reddish purple. And again, toning that with the titanium white. So it really gives, actually, I think I just put more of the actual this pigment in it to change that color. And then again, the yellow azo. So you can see the variance of what you can get in the greens by just mixing the other colors in. So highly recommend doing that. It's just such a fun project, and it really shows you how far you can go with just 3 colors. So now we're going to start mixing, and I'm going to start painting on a canvas. So I think we had said in the materials, an 11 by 14 canvas. So that's what I have here. Hopefully you can see that okay. I'm just going to put this at the top. Now I want to talk about the canvas. We haven't touched on that, and I think we're doing okay for time. So this is Liquitex recycled canvas, and this is very cool because it is made, you can see the packaging here, it's made from water bottles. So I had mentioned earlier, I was in the clothing business. I worked for a sweater manufacturer, and we had a yarn that we used in a lot of our fabrics that was a recycled cotton yarn, exactly the same principle as to what this is. So they take water bottles. Those water bottles are chopped up, turned into like a consistency so that they can extrude it into fine filament fiber. And that fine filament fiber becomes a polyester fiber. So we have a lot of polyesters happening on the market today, not like the polyesters of the 70s, but lots of different polyester fabrics, which are fantastic. And the majority of them are made from recycled water bottles. So in this case, it takes 4 water bottles to make 1 canvas. So they're making the fine filament, they're twisting that together into a thread or a yarn, they're weaving that together and creating the canvas that becomes the recycled canvas. Recycled canvas. So the wood, just so you know, in terms of the sustainability, so the wood, I just want to make sure I have these details properly for you, is certified FSC. So if we look here, you can see the certification. FSC is the Forest Stewardship Commission. And it basically means that it's using wood, a sustainable wood, meaning a wood that grows faster and can be replenished. So lots of details on the back here in terms of the canvas. So if you want to, make sustainability and all of that, every part of your life, you have the ability to do that. Tons of different sizes available. It's in this case, I have the regular thickness, but it is, they do have gallery depth as well. For my personal practice, I always paint on gallery depth. For my demo stuff, it's easier if I just use the thinner canvas if I'm taking it anywhere. So great product. It's been tested, tons of testing done internally with the company to make sure that it performs like any canvas would, and it's very good. I always gesso my canvases. I know they do come already pre-gessoed, but I always like to re-gesso. Normally I have a texture on it, Liquitex gesso. I'll be picking up more of this weekend at their 20% off sale. Thank you very much. Might as well stock that up while we can. So, all right, let's get going on some mixing so that you can see this painting come together. So basically, I'm going to mix versions of blues and purples, and we're going to layer it in the canvas. So basically, I'm going to start with a very light blue. I'm only taking a tiny, that may even be too much, bit of the phthalo blue. Yeah, see, it's still quite dark, but that's okay. So okay. Yeah, I definitely want more white in here. So I'm going to take a tiny little bit of this and mix it over here with more white. Okay. So, oh, one thing I forgot to tell you. I do like to wet my canvases before I start, and that may go back to, my mother, watercolors, I don't know, wedding paper, who knows. I like to wet my canvas before I start. So I'm using matte medium with approximately 25% water. So this is water bottle, dollar store water bottle. So the matte medium, so again, either your bio matte medium or your regular matte medium. So it is recommended in terms of best practices. On the label, you can see here, can thin with up to 25% water. So I try and adhere to those principles best I can. So I will spray the canvas before I start, and I do this whether it has texture or not. So you can use anything just to smooth that out. You can use your fingers, your hand, whatever. So I'm just using the Catalyst wedge. You know what? For me, there's not a lot of rules. I like to experiment and just try lots of different things and see how it goes. And sometimes things work and sometimes they don't, but it's all fun in the process. And it's amazing the things that can come together. So even spraying that bit of water and the matte medium and using the Catalyst wedge gave an interesting surface here already. Even with that little bit of a darker blue than what I wanted. I wanted to just start a little bit lighter. So I'm going to go over here. You can see all right. Let me just, this canvas is fairly big, so I'm just going to move it up here a little bit. Hopefully you can see it okay. So I put a little bit more white in here. I'm using the palette knife. I like the way I can get different colors mixed in here as I'm applying the paint. So I'm going to have to pull more as we go, but so now I'm just going to show you again. I want this to be landscape view. You could have done it the other way. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go back to the pictures here. We're going to put this, you'll be surprised how quickly we can put this painting together with all we've talked about, but I just want to show you something. These are some references I mentioned before. I will pull references to make sure that I have the feeling of what I'm trying to achieve. So this, we want to do a water type painting. It's going to have some kind of clouds on the top and the bottom is sort of textural. But what I want to point out, and I'll come back to those pictures. So we do have some highlights in here, and that's sort of reflected highlights. So you do want to make sure that you have some symmetry happening between the sky and the water. And you also want to make sure that you have a specific horizon line. So if you have your horizon line, then the mind tells you, okay, this is a landscape. So I just want to point out here's some photos that I had taken. This is the sun. So you can see the sort of random reflection that's happening here in the water. So I like to create that effect because it gives you kind of a focal point and gives you a pathway through the painting when you have that on your horizon. This I wanted to really show you the water paintings and the dark to light. So I'm going to be building this dark at the bottom to light in the midpoint where the horizon line is, and then back up to deeper in the sky again. Depending on the water photos you look at, there are different variations on this. So, but you can see these kind of ripples, textures in the water. This is what I'm trying to affect by this sort of randomness in terms of the paint. And oh, that's for landscape we get there. So so that gives you an idea. And I like to look at both the color and the black and white because it gives you more of an idea of those dark darks and the light lights. Okay, so let's keep going. So I need a little bit more light through the sky here, so I'm gonna just put some more here. Okay, and I'm going to, I don't often do this in the beginning, but for the sake of this, so that we can build it accordingly, I'm going to put a horizon line in. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. And my one camera, I'm sorry, is a little bit angled here. So my canvas is a bit wonky on your screen. However, so you can do it two ways. One, you take basically a ruler or any straight edge. It doesn't have to be like, you could just use this as a straight edge or whatever. I'll use the ruler, and what I will do is just take, there's two things I want to show you. I'm going to take the phthalo blue, and I like to, when I do my water paintings, I like it to be all about the water. So I love just sitting by the water and just looking out and just looking at nothingness. And so I really like it to be about the water, not so much the sky, although I like the sky too, but so if I'm doing this perfectly, you're going to measure and you're going to mark to make sure you have this a complete exact horizontal line. I'm not going to do that right now because I know we're getting close to the end, believe it or not. So you can just take a brush and then follow along that ruler, which gives you a nice straight line to work against as we're building up the color. So I'm going to show you one other thing that you can do. I happen to love these. So these Liquitex markers. So if you have never used an acrylic marker, these are so much fun. They have them at above ground in the really thick size, and I'm sorry I don't have mine handy to show you. And they have the standard, and here, let me just see if you can see it. So it's an angled tip, so you can do fine or whatever you like. So let me just show you on here so you can see how it just works like a marker. I did it with the brush, but you can also use this, and I find these are also really good. You're probably not going to see it so much because of what I've done, but you can use this if you want instead of the paint. I find this works a little bit better if it's dry. So, but this also works to go in at the end if you want to really make sure that you have some specific sharp edges for that line, because if that horizon line is really far away, it's definitely definitely a good sharp line. So I sort of got rid of a bit of my paint line there, but that's okay. So now I'm going to just try and get a little bit more of a darker blue. So I'm just going to mix a little bit more. And I'm still right now just the phthalo blue and the white. So I'm going to go in here at the bottom, and actually I can use a little bit more water on here. See, the water helps to stop these kind of hard edges. Okay, so I'm going a little bit darker on the bottom, and I want a little bit more of this to come in the top as well, but not necessarily a ton. And just because of all the layers, you can go back and you can cover up, you can just, keep building and building, and creates just such an interesting effect, all the layers of color. I need some more white here. Okay. Any questions, Christina?
Just some questions about pricing, but I answered in the chat already.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we're good there. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit more of the phthalo blue. I'm going to take just a little bit of our quinacridone crimson. So you can see I'm getting a little bit of a deeper shade. And I'm going to go in the bottom with this. Now I'm using the palette knife. I'm going to show you. You can use a credit card, room key, credit card, any of those gift cards. You can use that to scrape over the surface. Anything you like. You can use an old piece of cardboard. So here's, you know what? You can take a piece of cardboard and just scrape through the surface. So again, it all gives interesting effects. You just have to experiment. Okay, so I want to kind of get things going up here. So I'm just getting a little bit more white. I still have the same, that darker color mixed in here a little bit. Okay, and I need a little bit of that. So that gave it more of a, when we added the magenta, just a little bit more of a denim-y hue to it. And I think the more shades you can get, the more variations you can get, the nicer it is, in my opinion. But it's all, I'm now working on a little bit of a, like a pinky sort of purpley color, which I'm going to work in here. And again, if you put something in and you don't like it, don't worry. You can just cover it up again. So it's all about experimenting and having fun. And I find sometimes the best paintings actually emerge from those that you've painted over, because you have these amazing textures and shadows that come through. Okay. So we have some pinks happening in here. So again, for some kind of basic symmetry, I want to make sure that I have a little bit of pink happening up here in the clouds. It's a very simplistic version of what we're doing here. A little bit of pink up here. Probably put a little bit more white in there. The sky tends to be a little bit more muted. So my canvas has dried up a little bit here. I'm just putting a little bit more of the mixture of matte, medium, and water on there. So this is where, once you kind of start getting through to the finishing stages, this is a very simplified version of what I would do, because again, it's going to be layers and layers and layers and layers. So, but I think you're probably getting the gist of what's happening here. So I'm just going to go to this little point here that I talked about in terms of this kind of focal point here. So it really does make sense to have a little bit of a focus. So you're coming through the painting, and so again, I need a little bit. You tend to use a lot of titanium white. I find this all the time. So I was in above ground on Wednesday, and I bought another big thing of titanium white. And I actually think I'll probably end up ordering another one. Sorry, I'm just looking for I'm going to order another one because I go through so much in my regular practice. Okay, so I'm just putting a little bit more white down here. So I just want to give this illusion of the lightness coming from the sky. And this sometimes takes a little bit of fiddling to try and get that how you want it. And it's still a bit wet, so you probably, I would probably go in again once it's dry, so that you can really get some brightness in there. The other thing that you can do, and this takes a little experimenting, you can put a tiny little bit I've just put a teeny little bit of the yellow in there, and you can use that, and it just gives a little bit of warmth to that spot. So then you can take a tiny little bit of that. Again, you can work it in to some other parts in the painting. It just gives some warmth to the white that's happening there.
We have a question here in the chat.
Yeah. Yep.
So Marilyn would like to know if you have a preference in heavy body versus soft body when mixing with any medium.
Oh, well, the one thing about the mediums, so if you wanted to have just one, um, if you if you I think because everybody's practice a little bit different. So mediums will allow you to make the paint heavier or thinner. So you can use a soft body and you can combine that with a medium to make it heavier if you want it. But at the same point in time, you can take the heavy body and combine it with like a matte medium and make it thinner. So that's a difficult question. I would say if you I don't know. I personally love the soft body, so I tend to lean towards those. But not everybody feels the same way. It's just what you're used to. That's a tough question to answer. But you can do whatever you want with both paints and the mediums. I hope that helps. Okay, so just what I normally like to do as well when I get to the end is I will like to, fix up this horizon line a little bit, but not, not necessarily, so defined all the way across. I have a bit of it's quite wet in here. This is where, watching my mom and her watercolors, I think comes into what I do on canvas because I like it to be quite wet. But as it dries, you can go in and you can definitely fine tune all of these areas so that you can get yourself your clean horizon line. But maybe it's a misty day and you don't want a definitely clean horizon line. So I think we've sort of covered off pretty much everything. If you want to put some clouds in, you can get some white and scrape your clouds into the sky. Okay. So I'm just going to switch over to the other view and then we can take some other questions if anyone has any other questions and I can show you. So it's a little bit wet, so you can see because of the water and the matte medium that I put on here. So I would consider this to be kind of a base layer. And you can see the dripping happening already. Once that dries, then I would go in and just fine tune all the details and it evolves from there. And if I'm not happy with it, then I'll just paint over it and do something else. Thank you. I hope that everyone found it to be informative and interesting and helps them with something new in their practice.